Great. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Rianne, for giving me the opportunity to do this talk on behalf of myself and my colleague, Roma Tartes. So we both teach, along with Rianne and other colleagues, on the planetary pathway. Just a little bit of background. I did geography, biology, and English language for A-levels, and then geology for a degree path. So I've come to planetary science as a career slightly different to other people in the group that we work in. Other people come from physics backgrounds, chemistry backgrounds, and Roma has a biology background. So planetary science is a truly multidisciplinary subject area, which you can access through a whole different range of study pathways. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on the fieldwork aspect of planetary science, which is not the immediate thing that probably most people think about, but is actually the reason I got into doing geology in the first place. I was keen to go outdoors and actually study the environment here on Earth. So when we think about planetary science as a subject area, we normally think about, let me see if I can get to the next slide, how we explore other worlds in different places. So clearly it's quite expensive for us to go and do field work on other planets. We don't all have the budget of the US in the 1960s to get astronauts to go and explore the lunar surface. But we can use the data sets that are collected by these space missions to study comparative planetology processes. And this is something throughout the degree pathway that we touch upon. We teach units in explaining how we explore other worlds through space missions. We explore what we've found. We look at the geography and the surface of other planets, the chemistry of other planets as mapped out by space remote sensing missions or rovers, to understand and integrate the knowledge of why the Earth is here and how it compares and contrasts to other planets in the wider solar system. So thinking about how we can actually use the Earth to understand planetary science a little bit more, and actually what some of the subject areas of our degree pathway include. In the third year of the planetary pathway, we go to Germany to an impact crater. So again, we can't quite access the moon or impact craters on Mars, but Germany has a really nice example of a site where an asteroid crashed into the surface of the Earth 14 million years ago. This is known as the Reese impact crater, and you can see in the map on the left-hand side here, this is a topography map, and this depression, circular depression, is the impact site. So this was actually a place where the Apollo astronauts went to train before they went to the moon. This is Alan Shepard, who was the first American man in space and flew on the Apollo 14 crewed mission to the lunar surface in the Reese as well, studying the rocks there to understand how impact formation processes shape the other surfaces of other worlds. And so we follow in the footsteps of the Apollo astronauts. This is some of our third year students in the Reese impact crater studying the products of impact cratering and using that to understand cratering as a fundamental process on other planetary bodies. The students seem to really enjoy this trip. It really kind of accumulates our knowledge of what we've learned through the whole of the degree pathway and integrates an understanding of comparing and contrasting the Earth with other planetary processes. It helps as well that it's a very nice part of Germany with lots of great places to go out and eat. So it's a highly enjoyable field trip. Thinking about other fieldwork opportunities that I've been able to undertake as part of my planetary science research career pathway, I've been lucky enough to visit field localities such as in Iceland, where I was involved with an interdisciplinary study to collect samples for using in biological investigations of planetary analog environments. So to understand how life got started on Earth, and this overlaps with some of the topics that Rob was talking about on the paleo pathway, we actually like to understand what the conditions for life are and whether life evolved here on planet Earth or whether it could have evolved on another planet. And this is really important because if we're sending our rovers out to explore the surface of Mars, we need to understand what life might look like and what biomarkers might be present in the Martian environment to be able to actually understand past and present traces for life on other planets. So we can go to places like Iceland, as I was lucky enough to do, and as part of our degree pathway, we can understand the limits for life and conditions for life by taking units in geomicrobiology, where there's this nice overlap between microbiology and astrobiology, so the study of life on Earth and in other places. thinking about other nice places where I've been lucky enough to have opportunities to do fieldwork. This is a photograph of myself in the Atacama Desert in Chile, and this is Roma in Antarctica on the last field season we were lucky enough to go down and take part in. And we were actually led this fieldwork campaign to go and recover meteorite samples from different places on Earth. So meteorites represents the surviving fragments of an asteroid which has come down through Earth's atmosphere. We can go out and collect them and investigate their chemistry, their age, the structures and minerals within them, so the types of topics Alison was talking about on the geoscience pathway, to understand how planets form and how they geologically evolve through time. And this is the research area that Rianne, who's hosting today, myself and Roma mostly closely focus on. And students studying the planetary pathway can take a second-year module where we spend an awful lot of time actually studying real asteroid samples that we find in meteorites from all over the world. And our third and fourth year planetary pathway students can do an independent research project where we actually study the samples that we go out and collect in these environments, and samples that we borrow from museum collections as well. And to give you an example of where this has worked really nicely, this is a meteorite which I was lucky enough to collect in Antarctica on an American expedition in 2011. This is known as MIL, which stands for Miller Range. It's part of the Transantarctic Mountain Range in Antarctica. We found this sample on Christmas Day in Antarctica. I requested a piece of it to be sent to Manchester to do research on. And then I worked with a wonderful student called Tim Gregory, who some of you may have heard of, appeared in the BBC Astronauts television show. And him and I worked with some colleagues on studying this sample together in the lab to investigate what it told us about a really large asteroid called Vesta. So this is an example of a fourth year project, which was kind of conceived, executed, and then actually we wrote a research paper which appeared in a publication at the end of this process. So it gives you a flavour of kind of what projects you might expect to see, expect to undertake and actually work on real scientific questions and problems we have, and how we can link this field work throughout the stages of our project. So hopefully that's helped understand some of the exciting fieldwork aspects of planetary science. But I'd like to also point out the fact that you don't have to love fieldwork to do planetary science. Many of our students come from a physics or a maths background as well. And there's plenty of opportunities where you can pick modules where you don't have to go into the field if you don't want to as well. So I'll stop sharing and I'll hand back to Rianne to answer any questions you have.